Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another edition of Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema. This show is brought to you by the KB Radio Network, and I am your humble host, Kevin Reed. And today is Star Wars Day. Well, actually, the time of this recording is Star Wars Day, but the day of the release, it won't be. But the time y'all hear it, Star Wars Day would have passed, which is May the 4th, which is May the 4th be with you. But I don't make the calendars. And speaking of not making the calendars, I understand that this weekend is Mother's Day weekend. And normally I would have did a Mother's Day episode. Well, I do have a Mother's Day episode scheduled for release next weekend, because I thought that Mother's Day weekend was the third weekend of the month, and it was stuck in my head that way, and I don't know why. But once again, I don't make the calendars. I don't know how I got mixed up with that. It is what it is. But next week's episode will be our Mother's Day edition of Movie Goodness. And I'm going to tell you then, but I'm going to tell you now, being as though it's clear and present. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers who are listening. And to all of you who have mothers, tell them Happy Mother's Day for me. Mothers are awesome human beings, even though they probably made your adolescence a little rough. When you get older, you realize that Yeah, mom was on point. She was right. Mom was right. And it is what it is. But we'll get into more of that on the next episode after Mother's Day. I don't make the calendars, but it is what it is. Trying to stick to a schedule, and the schedule bit me in the behind. But it doesn't matter. We're going to roll along and enjoy it just as well. This is your Mother's Day present to all you mothers. Star Wars. And we're going to discuss Star Wars today, because this is probably one of the biggest films in pop culture. As far as a franchise is concerned, it don't get much bigger than Star Wars. Rather you lived in a cave or lived under a rock, I'm pretty sure you heard of Star Wars. This is a staple of pop culture, and this is a franchise that began in 1977, and we are awaiting another addition to this franchise. Not a film, but a television show, which comes out in a couple of weeks. Obi-Wan Kenobi, which will be on Disney Plus. So it's still going after 45 years, still chugging along, and still as popular today as it was in 1977. But we're going to do something a little different today. We're not going to review one film. We're not going to do that, because it's too much to try to compact into one film. Now, for those of you who've been following the KB Radio Network from the beginning, and thank you for that. Thank you for sticking around. Love you all. Tell your mom Happy Mother's Day, and if you're a mother, Happy Mother's Day, by the way. And you know that I did a review on May the 4th, rather, last year. And I did the original Star Wars. We did a talk about how it just blew up. It was one of the first blockbuster films of all time, ever. But for this go around, I'm not just going to do one. I'm going to do the original trilogy today. We're going to talk about the original trilogy, the first three in this gigantic franchise, being, yes, Star Wars once again, the original A New Hope, Then we're going to talk about my favorite of all Star Wars films, television shows, whatever. The Empire Strikes Back. And we're going to end it with Return of the Jedi. Because I think this was, out of all the shows and movies that came after these three, the original trilogy is the most flushed out, engaging soap opera, if you will, of all. Is not reliant on, special effects so much. It's really, or the action or the event. It just had a hodgepodge of all of these genres, and it was so exciting, man. It twists and turns. This was probably, I'm pretty sure they had twists in movies before this time, but in my lifetime, this was like the first time I witnessed a twist in a movie that I didn't see coming, and that's in The Empire Strikes Back. We'll get to that when we're reviewing that film. But everything that goes on, you have the swashbuckling element, you have the romance element, you have this evil empire. You can look at it, I mean, you can dissect it so many ways. You can view it in so many different ways. You can look at it as terms of spirituality or religion or Nazis and Jews, and if you want, I'm not saying that's how George Lucas conceived all this, because I'm pretty sure he didn't. But you can see similarities, how the Empire seems like a little Nazi in them, and the Jedi is more of a spiritual element or a religious element, kind of like monks. They're basically space monks, relying on the Force, whereas Christians, we rely on the Holy Spirit. It's a lot of things that you can, prisms you can look through here, and this is just subjective. Everybody have their own view. Everybody have their own opinion on how it touched them or how it appealed to them. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm not saying none of those things are coordinated with me, how I look at it, but I've been seen where it's been described as certain, those things, people see it in those ways, and I don't think George Lucas saw it that way. Number one, before we jump into Star Wars, if you saw Dune, not just this remake that came out, should I call it a remake? Or this version that came out last year from Denis Villeneuve, which was pretty good. Pretty good. I was kind of disappointed with it because I didn't know going in that it was a 2-part movie. I was expecting a whole story. It ended up being the first half. I think a lot of people didn't know that. So everybody was caught off guard. But anyways, Dune is the inspiration. The novel is the inspiration for Star Wars. This wasn't the original idea from George Lucas. All the characters and stuff like that are original, but his source of inspiration came from the novel Dune. And so it started from there. And George Lucas, struggling filmmaker, he had made a few films. He had made American Graffiti, what is it, THX, whatever the numbers were, I forgot, which those were all moderate, successful movies, nothing that really jumped out and grabbed you. And he wanted to make Star Wars. The studio really didn't want to hand over this big property, or not so much hand over because it was his, or let him lead this big property, because they didn't have confidence that he can handle such a big production. So George Lucas, in so many words, he bet on himself and made it. And the rest, as they say, is history, man. I mean, this movie, and we're jumping right into the review. Our first film, the 1977 American epic space opera Star Wars, which later became Episode 4, is it? Episode 4, A New Hope. And this was so amazing to the point where, because you never seen nothing like this. You know, we've seen these cheesy space operas, you know, done in the past, but nothing to this degree. Nothing that had gravitas like this. Now, I'm speaking like I used to watch movies around that time. In 1977, I wasn't even born. I don't even think I was thought of in 1977. I didn't pop around till 2 years later. And thanks to my dad and my mom. Happy Mother's Day, by the way. Yeah, I'm going to keep throwing that out there because I'm mad at myself because I didn't realize Mother's Day was this weekend. But I'll make it up to y'all. Anyways, I wasn't around when this movie was first released. So, you know, I didn't get the allure from, you know, the pandemonium that took place where this movie was just a juggernaut, and you know that just changed pop culture and shook the pillars of the movie industry. This movie changed how films were made. Really, it really changed the direction of filmmakers and studios and how they did things. Because after this movie was so successful, George Lucas pretty much owned all this was him. This was him. Now 20th Century Fox, when it was 20th Century Fox around that time, they distributed it. But as far as financing it and everything, that was all George Lucas. And voila, I think they dropped the ball. And I think they know they dropped the ball on that. But which later Disney bought 20th Century Fox, and they got all of, well, actually, I think they got Star Wars property before they bought Fox. Either way, they got it. So, but of course, Disney own everything now. I think they own me. I don't know. It might be a little slavery in there, but besides the point. This movie, the way it comes on, the way it opens with this giant ship coming across the screen, and like I saw it on a 20-inch TV, which is gigantic. Was around that time, you know, the big floor model TV. So it was. That's how I was introduced to it. And wow, man, it was like, wow, this looks so real. This looks so good. And that was another thing about Star Wars. These special effects still hold up. And you know why they hold up so well? It wasn't so reliant on computer-generated images, mainly because computer-generated images wasn't a thing. This was 1977. And so they had to rely on practical effects, in-camera work. It looks so good. They messed it up with the special editions, in my humble opinion. With all the special effects and, you know, just cartoonish looking characters. It just don't look right. And that's George Lucas. He wanted to act the way he wanted to do it originally. And I think it takes away. It really takes away. It just don't look right. It don't fit the movie. It really doesn't fit the movie. But I guess you could say, judgment of it, I'm going off the original. Now, full disclosure, I did not like Star Wars the first time I saw it. And let me explain why. I know there's a collective gasp that is going around right now. Like, how dare he? But this is the reason why. I saw The Empire Strikes Back first. And then I saw Star Wars. Due to the fact, at the time of my birth. Now, once again, just like I couldn't control the calendar, I couldn't control when I was born. I was born in 1979. The Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980. Now, obviously, I didn't go to the theater to see it. I probably did, but I don't know. I don't even know if somebody brought me. But I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't see it till years later. Oddly enough, I believe, if memory serves, I think I saw Return of the Jedi before I saw Star Wars as well. Because we have to remember here, people. This is before streaming service. This is before day and day releases, which wouldn't have helped me none anyway, because we didn't have cable. So we didn't have day and day releases, didn't have cable, couldn't order it digitally, didn't exist. Didn't have Blockbuster Video. Of course, that wouldn't have helped us either, because we didn't have a VCR until later on in life. And so we didn't have all these nooks and crannies, man. And so we had to catch it whenever it just popped up on TV. Now, a few years later, after we end up getting cable, we end up getting a VCR and whatnot, and we rented a lot of things. Now, I'm trying to remember how I saw The Empire Strikes Back first. Okay, I remember now. It just came to me. Thank you. It just came to me. We finally got HBO. All right, the 5 channels just wasn't enough. So we finally got HBO. And I want to say this had to be 85, 86 maybe, when we got HBO. And, well, let me pause right quick because I want to let y'all know. This is not going to be a normal review where I break down every single film, one by one. I'm just going to go through and talk about my experience with this trilogy, because it's all, I'll be here forever breaking down each and every film in Star Wars because there's a lot to talk about. So I'll probably be bouncing around from one to the other, but I'll make it make sense. I promise you that. At least it'll make sense to me, to me at least. Anyways, yeah, it was around maybe 85, 86 we got cable. And I think one of the first things that was on HBO was The Empire Strikes Back. And so I couldn't wait to see it because, man, of course, I've been hearing all about it. And so I watched it with my dad and my brother, and we watched it because I think they had seen Star Wars. Of course, I didn't. So they was excited. I was excited because they was excited. So I'm watching it, and I'm just in awe of the spectacle of how beautiful this movie looks. Because The Empire Strikes Back was not directed by George Lucas like the original was. The Empire Strikes Back was directed by Irvin Kushner. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. And I loved this movie. and his name always stuck out with me for some strange reason, because he also directed another sequel that I felt was a little more superior. Well, I wouldn't say more superior, but was a little more enjoyable than the original. He directed RoboCop 2. And it was another sequel he directed as well. He was known before he passed away as the king of sequels. He'll come in and make the sequel, and it'll surpass the original. And that is true. That is true, because this when it comes to The Empire Strikes Back, like I think it's better than the original. Now, I didn't, as I stated before, I didn't see the original first. I saw it out of order, which later on in life we realized we saw everything out of order when it came to Star Wars. It's still watching it out of order if you watch Clone Wars and The Mandalorian and all that stuff. All that stuff takes place in between the original trilogy and the prequels and all this. It's all crazy how it's all chronological. You'll go insane trying to figure out what goes first. But anyways, so I probably would have had a different feel for the original had I seen that first, then went into Empire Strikes Back. Unfortunately, that's not how it worked. Now, you may, for our younger listeners, you may sit here and scratch your head like, Kevin, didn't you say the movie came out in 1980? You didn't see it till like 5 years later. And in between that, you had Return of the Jedi, which came out in 1983. So this movie, by the time you saw it, all three had officially been released. This is true. These are all facts. As I was stating before, we didn't have all of those streaming services, and you didn't have movies coming out every single weekend. Theaters trying to push movies out of the theater because another movie coming up. That wasn't happening back then. So a movie can have a theatrical run for 1 to 2 years. It if not longer than that. It really. Empire Strikes Back, and I probably should have looked this up before I brought it up, but it had, I want to say, now I did look it up. I can't find it now. Man. Anyway, it was in the theaters a while. It was at the movie theater for a while, and like most movies, it'll be in theaters for about 2 years, and then you get the big VHS release. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after that, maybe a year, maybe two, but a year at least, at the very least. Then it will drop on HBO, because that was the big daddy of them all back then. HBO. That's before Showtime and Cinemax and Stars and all those other ones. HBO was it. Yeah, you had time before you actually saw it on television. Because the crazy part, when it comes to Return of the Jedi, which at this point I was dying to go see in the theater before it left the theater. I wanted to get one in. At least see one in the theaters before it left, you know. And I begged my mother to bring me to Return of the Jedi. Now, if I'm not mistaken, now this may seem crazy, and it's crazy for me to say this, but this is how I remember it. And it's weird because this is something my mom would never do. But for some strange reason, my heart and my mind is telling me this is how it happened. She did bring me I think it was the last day of his theatrical run. It was a Thursday because they always stopped on a Thursday because the new movies came out on Friday. So, Return of the Jedi, last showing, Thursday, such and such time. Now, this is during school. It was a school day. My mom brought me, and I didn't go to school that day. She took me to go see Return of the Jedi. And the reason I'm shocked and amazed, this is how I remember it. This would never happen. This would never happen under any circumstance in my house. I must have been crying and putting up a fuck. I don't know. Even that couldn't happen because that wouldn't work with my mother. Happy Mother's Day, Ma. I know that wouldn't work in that house. No way. I don't know if she was. I don't know. And my mom don't drink, but she must have been drunk. I don't know what happened, but I remember it this way. Now I could be remembering wrong. I'm gonna ask her. Now she's gonna deny. She's gonna deny that she did not bring me to school to go see a movie. Something that she does not do. She does not go to movies. I can count on one hand how many times my mom has been to a movie theater, at least with me. And so, because she does not like movies. She don't like the loud, the noise, you know. And my daughter's the same way. My youngest daughter, she hates that loud noise. But I drag her anyway. But anyways, yeah, I went to the theater to see this, and it had to be 1987 or something like that, somewhere around there. Now, like I said, the movie came out in 83, but I believe the reason I got to see it, it was a re-release, and I'm gonna look it up right quick. Let me see right quick. Yep, I was right. It was re-released in 1985. So I was 6 years old. So I had to be in first grade? So I was in first grade. And yeah, that's how it happened. That's how it happened. But yes, I did go see that in the theater. And it was amazing. And I know that this is a favorite to a lot of people because of the climactic into it, it wasn't like that for me. It still to this day is Empire. It's my favorite, hands down. I mean, it's my favorite for all that took place in that movie. Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Jedi. No, it's Return. It was supposed to be Revenge. And they retitled it because they felt Revenge would be, controversial at the time. Look, it was the 80s. They felt that it would have been appropriate for a Jedi to seek revenge, which is right, but technically, is Luke really a Jedi? I mean, he has Jedi abilities, but technically, I'm just skirting the line there. But anyway, Return of the Jedi. I loved it. I loved the end. I just felt it could have been a little more climactic. It should have been more. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm trying to be critical of it, even though I loved it to death. There's really no way, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. But let's hop back over to Empire. Empire. The reason why Empire is my favorite. Empire has every great element from all three films in this one. It has all of the romance between Han and Leia. It has the story of Luke progressing. It has the adventure. It has even more action. I think it has more action in Empire than the other two. The story of Darth Vader. You see Darth Vader in his most menacing in this film, and probably in any of the other films. This is the most menacing or frightening of a villain I've seen. The scene when Han and Leia there on, I think it was Vespa, I want to say, the Cloud City. When they are betrayed by Billy D. Williams, aka Lando, and that door opens up and Darth Vader is standing there, and it was like, oh my God, it was the scariest moment for me. And when Han tried to shoot him and he blocks it with his hand, and it's like, oh my God, man, what you gonna do? What can you do against this dude, man? I mean, Darth Vader is a beast. And then the twist. Well, before we get to the twist, Han being frozen in carbonite. That was like, oh my God, the hero. This is the hero, man. Now I know this is a Skywalker saga, but everybody loved Han Solo. Han Solo was the star. He was the man. I mean, it's Harrison Ford. And at the time, when I saw it, I'm younger, I'm like, man, they killed Han? I mean, what is this? They froze him? What is this? And that was that. So I'm like, okay, they'll find a way to get through that. And then the fight with Darth Vader and Luke, and Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand. And you're like, oh my God, this movie is brutal. This is brutal. And after all that, for Darth Vader to tell him, because at this point, Luke was told that Darth Vader killed his father. And then, spoilers, I mean, geez, who haven't seen Star Wars? And at this point, for Darth Vader to turn and say, no, I'm your father. Man, look, bro. I'm telling you, that is the biggest swerve I've ever seen, all the way up to The Sixth Sense. But all of the movies I've seen, I've never seen a swerve like that. And it was done perfectly. And then after all that, the movie ends. And this was the first time in my little short stint on Earth that I saw a movie where the bad guys won. The bad guys won. You never watched a movie expecting the bad guys to win. You're supposed to fear that they're going to win. You're supposed to be like, oh man, how's the hero going to get out of this? Oh, this is going to be tough for the hero to get out of this one. But you always know that they're going to get out of it. No. Not in this movie. Everything went wrong for the heroes. Leia is captured. Han is in carbonite. Luke gets his arm chopped off, and then find out that the man who chopped off his arm is actually his paw. The Empire is they thought they destroyed the Death Star, but they got another Death Star. I mean, all this stuff is going on, and you're like, oh my God, this really is the Empire striking back. Man, this is brutal. And this was so bold of a movie studio and filmmakers to make this choice of a franchise now to put faith in their viewers, to stand behind it and run with it and see this story, to its epic conclusion in Return of the Jedi. And because a lot of films That's a risk, man. I mean, the only other film that done that was well, franchise wise, I would say is Lord of the Rings. Because they filmed all those back to back to back. So if the first one failed, would have been a bomb. What you do with the other two films? You already filmed them, and these weren't cheap movies. So they took a risk, and it paid off. And with this, you took a risk. You took a risk, and it paid off. Now, like I said, Star Wars is a juggernaut at this point, and it would have took a massive event for this to fail, and even the bad Star Wars films, because trust me, there are some bad Star Wars films, people. They were successful financially, so it wasn't so much of a, but that's now. That's in hindsight. That back then, come on. You're coming off of one movie. Man, it's just bold. I tip my hat to them people. That is a bold choice. And it was, brutal. But we get to Return of the Jedi. And I seen this is probably one of my least favorite. But, well, let me stop right there. Let me tell you, at the moment, I saw the original. So I wanted to see the original before I saw the last one. Just so I could get it under my belt. Like I said, didn't like it the first time I saw it. And it took me 2 times to watch it. I felt the first one was boring. The first few minutes. And I only got through the first half of it. Or the first 30 minutes of it. And I was bored. Now, I'm a 5-6-year-old little kid. And, I just saw The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm thinking, in my mind, that Star Wars A New Hope was going to be just as exciting as that, but it wasn't. It was setting up the story, but I didn't know that at the time. I'm a little baby child. I didn't know, and it just didn't click with me, and I felt I didn't have to watch it to go for it. Now, I did eventually see it through, watched it all the way through, and I said, okay, it's all right. But as I got older, and I'm saying older like now, but seriously, it was like a few years, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, it dawned on me. The reason why the first one didn't connect with me, I was spoiled. I got spoiled from Empire because I knew the story, and then watching it and the time they took to set it up and everything in A New Hope, it didn't really pop off with me because I've seen it and I know the end result. But I do appreciate it now. I do enjoy it now for what it is. So it's not as bad as I remembered at first. But this in Return of the Jedi, this being Empire, in Return of the Jedi, that never changed. I still love them. Empire is still my favorite. Return of the Jedi was exciting, but I feel like it wasn't quite as exciting as Empire. And the only thing epic about it was the battle at the end. The fight between Luke and Darth Vader. I love that lightsaber battle. And for years I debated that lightsaber battle wasn't as good as Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. But I digress. After watching it again and the impact of it and the storytelling behind it, man, it doesn't touch it. Return of the Jedi lightsaber battle between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader is the best lightsaber battle in Star Wars. Now, they've had some exciting ones. I loved it. I loved the what was it? Who? Oh my God! Why is his name escaping me? It's Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. I love that battle. From whichever one it was, the first prequel. I love that battle. The Phantom Menace. I love that because it looked like they actually rehearsed some epic sword play. You know, it wasn't CG and none of that. It looked like they were going at it, and I enjoyed that. I did enjoy Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. Thought that was pretty awesome because you got two Jedis at their peak who know each other backwards and forwards going at it, and that was epic. But man, this one here, Return of the Jedi, was beautiful. It was just beautiful storytelling. But this is definitely the best trilogy out of the trilogies of trilogies, because there are three sets of trilogies. There's this one, the originals. There are the prequels, and there are the new ones that just came out. As far as the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. So this is the better of the three, and can't be touched. It's nothing nostalgic. It just can't be touched. The prequels fell flat to me. Now I know there are defenders of the prequels, and the prequels weren't horrible. They just didn't get there with me. It was too animated. It was too much special effects. I never thought I would say that until I saw those movies. There was too much special effects. I mean, my God. And it looked like a cartoon at times. Especially now, some of that stuff looked dated. It just does not, it doesn't feel real. The original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, feels real because they use practical effects. I'm a big practical effects guy. I'm a big in-camera guy. CGI has its place. Don't get me wrong. I love good CGI. I just don't like overused CGI. This was the prequels were overused. It was very, very sloppy looking. You know, when you look back now, it doesn't hold up. The original holds up. These last three, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, I liked Force Awakens. I really did. Because Force Awakens actually felt like it was part of the original trilogy. Now, technically they are. But, I mean, as far as, you know, they use practical effects. The story was like a continuation. Well, it was a continuation. I mean, everything was, it just flowed. The Last Jedi, I tried. I can honestly say I watched The Last Jedi at least 4 times before I just gave up. I tried to apologize for that movie. I tried to really convince myself that was a good movie, a good Star Wars. It wasn't. And I love Rian Johnson as a filmmaker, but that was bad. That I did not enjoy The Last Jedi at all. But I will say this, and you can put this on my tombstone. It was far better than The Rise of Skywalker. I only seen that once in the theater. Technically, I seen it 1.5 times. because I tried to watch it again on Disney Plus a couple of weeks ago. I got halfway through it, and I just couldn't do it. And I was forcing myself through that half. Actually, I don't even think it was half. Maybe 20 minutes. And I can't do it. I physically felt ill trying to. That's how bad. That's how disgusted I was with that movie. That was so sloppily done. And I think it was a result of what took place in The Last Jedi. So they tried to course correct at the end of an epic saga. How you end the saga like that? It was just so bad. But that's another show for another day. We'll probably do those for the next May the 4th. But as far as this trilogy is concerned, oh man, if I had to grade them all, well, let's grade them individually. Star Wars gets an A. Empire Strikes Back gets a A+. And Return of the Jedi gets an A-. Overall grade, the original trilogy of Star Wars gets an A. I loved the original trilogy. There's nothing about those original films I would say is horrible. I can watch them all three any time of the week. The other two pairs of trilogies, no. I can pick one or two, or pick a scene here, or pick a scene there, or whatever here. Nothing I want to see through. Sit down and watch from beginning to end. I'll be honest with you. But, if I had to, I would. But it's not nothing I'll seek out. I'll seek out the original trilogy. But yes, that gets an A, man. I loved the Star Wars original trilogy. Like I said before, there's so much Star Wars material that is still coming out. We still have a Cassian series. I ain't even bring up Rogue One, which was the prequel to Star Wars. Believe it or not, it was something. It was something. It was something. It's an alright movie, but the last 10 minutes of it saved it. The last 10 minutes of it made me sit back and like, man, this is an awesome movie. But when I sat back and watched it again, I was like, this movie is really not all that good. But I loved the last 10 minutes of it. Solo. I only saw Solo once, and I probably should go back and watch it again. I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I wasn't over the moon for it. You get what I'm saying? It was like, it didn't. I don't know. I don't think I gave it a fair shot. I'm gonna have to go back and watch Solo again. Mandalorian is great. Love the Mandalorian. Can't wait for season 3. Mandalorian is some good television. Good Star Wars at that. Wasn't the biggest fan of Boba Fett. I never really understood the allure of Boba Fett. And I know once again that's blasphemy as well when it comes to a lot of people. What did you see in his brief appearances in Star Wars? Which one was it? Empire. He was in it for maybe 5 minutes. And then in Return of the Jedi, he was in it for a minute or two because he get killed. And everybody was like, "Oh man, he's the most feared bounty hunter." And yeah, but what'd he do? I didn't see the allure behind Boba Fett, but whatever. They gave him a TV show, and I still don't see the allure. The Mandalorian came in, and then the show got interesting. Sad to say, it just didn't do it for me. Now I'll watch another season of it because they had some good episodes in it, but it wasn't Mandalorian, and I guess it's not its fault because I was looking for Mandalorian, and that's not what I got. We're getting another season of Mandalorian, of course. We're getting Obi-Wan, which comes out in a couple of weeks, and we're also getting Ahsoka, which ought to be interesting for those of you who watch Clone Wars. So we're getting that live action show. We're getting Cassian. I think I mentioned he's from Rogue One, which I guess is going to be set before that because, spoiler alert again, he died in Rogue One. But everybody did, so I'm not spoiling that. Anyways, what else did they announce? I think that's it. But I do know of those, and that should keep us occupied for a while. Oh, they got Bad Batch. They have Star Wars Visions. A plethora. It's a whole thing of Star Wars on Disney Plus. It is still coming out, and it all started in 1977 with the great George Lucas giving us Star Wars: A New Hope. Before I go, I wanted to say this, but I got wrapped up rattling on like I always do. I had mentioned earlier about watching these out of order, and we all have watched them out of order because the original trilogy, chronologically, is not the first. Chronologically, of course, is the prequels. So before The Force Awakens came out, I wanted to show my girls, all of them, my wife included, because she never watched Star Wars. And so before we was going to see The Force Awakens, well, before it came out, I wanted to make sure that they seen all 6 films. So we went and bought them. I went and bought all 6 films on DVD or Blu-ray. It was the special edition, and that upset me, but whatever. So she asked, I think my youngest daughter, because she's the only one who's interested in that. She asked me, how are we going to watch it? We're going to watch it in order, or are we going to watch it the way you watched it? I said, well, the best course of action, baby, is to watch it the way I watched it. Because watching it in chronological order probably wouldn't even make sense. And I never tried. And I thought about it the other day. I said, I might sit down and actually try to watch this chronologically. Go with the prequels, then go into the original, and then go into, with Force Awakens and all that. But I don't know. I don't think I have the courage to do it. I don't know. I think TBS or TNT or something, they normally play all the Star Wars films back to back to back. I think they do it chronologically. But I've never really sat down and watched them all in order from episode 1 to episode 6 or 9. And so I'm going to try that. And I just thought that would be fun. I don't know why. But yeah, because I never understood that. I always got mad when I saw that. The opening crawl, when they had the text coming across the screen, and they always said episode 4 or episode 5. And I'm like, why is this don't make sense? Did I miss something? That's what I always thought. I'm like, did I miss something? Apparently we did. And they finally gave us the prequels. And I'm like, why was it out of order? It was just weird. It was weird to me, but I still enjoyed them all. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. I don't know why. But are you a Star Wars fan? 9 out of 10 people are. I'm just saying. 9 out of 10 people are. Which one is your favorite? Which Star Wars film is your favorite? Is it one of these originals? Or is it the prequels? Or is it Rise of Skywalker? Did I offend you by saying it was poo-poo? I want to know. Let me know by emailing the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. Let me know on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Just look up KB Radio Network. If you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave those 5 stars and those reviews. If you're listening on Spotify and other listening platforms, don't forget to share, follow the show, let everybody know that you're listening to the KB Radio Network. Everybody, it's been an honor, a privilege, and a joy to talk about Star Wars, the one film franchise that made it all right to be a nerd, made it all right to be a geek. You know, this was where it all started. Well, I mean, you can make an argument maybe Star Trek, but Star Wars was the big daddy. You know, everybody was into Star Wars at one point of their life, if not still. And I'm still there because I'm excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can't wait for that. Everybody, it's been a joy. Glad you came to join me. Once again, to all the mothers who are listening, happy Mother's Day. I hope you all enjoy your weekend. If you're listening on Mother's Day weekend, enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. We love you all. We need you because you are the backbones of our backs. So, thank you. Love you all. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, may the force be with you and you all be blessed.